The gentleman from Washington, Mr. Inslee.
Thank you. I have to say, while we've been engaged in this investigation, it's been very disturbing because it doesn't look like BP or the operators went through one stop sign. It looks like they went through 5 or 6 at least. I mean, anyone can make a mistake, but it's amazing to me the numbers here. We have a dead battery in the blowout preventer. We have a hydraulic leak in the blowout preventer because someone didn't ratchet it down. We have a casing decision that, according to various people, a decision to use a particular casing for economic reasons at least created a riskier situation. We have a failure to respond to the signals from the well that you were getting abnormal pressures. We had an early decision that may have been involved in the argument we heard about not using mud. And now our investigators have just tumbled to another one I want to ask you about that might be number 6 in this series of failures, and that is about these centralizers. Your staff has told investigators for the committee staff that a decision was made by BP to reduce, in effect, the number of centralizers. Centralizers are sort of a spring-like device that go around to keep the pipe, the casing centered in the well bore. It's very important to keep it centered so you have structural integrity so you don't get a leak. And originally, BP staff wanted to use 20 centralizers, which would have assured that you had centralizers above the hydrocarbon zone, 500 feet above the hydrocarbon zone. But someone apparently delivered the wrong ones to the rig, according to your staff, and so it was decided to reduce the number of centralizers to only 6. And because of that decision to only use 6, there were apparently no centralizers in the 500 feet zone above the hydrocarbon zone. Even though there was cement there were no centralizers. So that because there were no centralizers there, you may have been off-center, which could have weakened or essentially compromised the integrity of the system. So could you tell us about why BP made that decision to reduce the number of centralizers, why you decided to run this risk of not having centralizers in the zone? And these were conscious decisions. These were before the blowout. Why you decided to reduce that and run that additional risk?
I don't know why. That's part of the investigation that needs to continue. I do acknowledge what you're saying. I was in the review I had prior to this with the investigation team. Evidently 6 centralizers were run rather than 20 or so. I don't know the reason for that being 6 versus 20. Obviously the investigation team is looking into that, not just our team as well.
Is this somewhat disturbing, at least, that apparently your staff thought originally there should be 20? You should have them above the hydrocarbon zone. Somebody made a decision to reduce it to 6. Is that disturbing?
I think it needs to be looked at. I don't know the reason that those were dropped. I don't know. I have no idea what the reason they were dropped. So I don't know if there's a good reason or a bad reason. I don't know.
And when do you think BP will have that answer?
I think the investigation team will continue to look at it and soon. I don't know the exact time.
We hope that will be the case. And I just have to tell you that it's disturbing to me every single time there's said to be a junction between doing something safer and maybe a little more expensive and something to do riskier and maybe a little less expensive. In this particular case, BP went with the cheaper and riskier solution. To me, this seems like more of a cultural problem than just one running of a stop sign. I just have to relay that as one member of Congress's reaction. I want to ask about a larger part of the BP plan for our energy future of this country. Your logo, I really like. It's beautiful. It's green. It suggests benign photosynthesis. It was adopted when your previous leadership of British Petroleum wanted to call BP Beyond Petroleum. And the reason is your previous leadership recognized that every single oil well in the world is an invisible oil spill because the carbon that we use goes in the atmosphere, it gets burned up, the carbon dioxide goes in the ocean, creates carbonic acid in the ocean. And your previous leadership that understood that that's unsustainable because within the next century we probably won't have healthy coral reefs anywhere in the world. We will have acidic conditions that could damage 40% of the food chain, the very basic food chain of the oceans. He understood we had to get beyond petroleum. And yet it seems that that corporate goal has now been abandoned by BP, and you've reduced your investment in some of the things that can get us beyond petroleum. In fact, has that happened, and how do you explain that disappointing event?
I would disagree. We've not abandoned that. We've been very, very clear that we believe in all of the above, including the range from exploration and production to biofuels, solar, and wind. We're still investing on the schedule that Lord Brown talked about years ago. In fact, we're ahead of that schedule. And we are investing primarily in the U.S. on wind and biofuels and solar. So we are still firmly in belief of that it needs to be everything, and we're still investing in that way.
What percentage of your expenses or investments of your total budget go to renewable energy sources as a rough percentage? Just very rough.
I would say 5 to 10%, but I'm not sure.
We appreciate your comments. We hope there's more fiscal muscle behind those desires. Thank you.
The gentleman's time has expired.